breathing in the silence, heartbeat like a flare. Every scar a story, every store's yes, you're still here. I was falling through the blue, through the wreckage, through the truth. Then the dark cracked open wide, saw the sunrise in my eyes. I rise for the skyline after the storm. Every shattered piece is part of my form, lighting in my lungs.
Erin MacKenzie, hello. How are
Hello,
you?
Paul. I love this. I am great. It's so good to see your beautiful smile.
It's so good to see you. And just for the people out there, Erin is joining me in my first solo of your Digital Bullpen. We have spun off and we are doing leadership editions and staffing technology editions. And Erin today is joining me, which we've been trying to plan this for months, but we've been
Oh,
busy.
wow.
Life happens. But yeah, I'm excited to kind of like get you rocking and rolling because you're going to be kind of a little bit mesh of everything. We're going to talk leading people, technology, staffing, because Erin is the trifecta of those three, I would say, in your background and skill set. So I'm so happy to have you on my first
Well,
edition.
I'm excited. Thanks for letting me be here on like kicking off the
Yeah.
inaugural.
Yeah.
I'll come back for like episode 100.
Absolutely. Oh God, kill me now. No, that's a long time from now. But well, I want to introduce you because those that don't know Erin MacKenzie, which is few and far between, as I talk about the industry, but you are a staffing technology leader. You're a speaker, which you're diving into, mentor, advocate for human-centric leadership. Over 20 years experience in the industry. You have experience from multiple perspectives. So not just the staffing side and leadership, but transforming organizations, working as consultant, even starting from I think you started from running a full desk during the financial crisis, which we remember very, very well back in the day, 2008, 6, 7, right?
Yes.
To leadership roles at eRecruit, Bullhorn, Newberry, and now the VP of Solution Engineering at MedSol with our good friend that's out there, Rich Thompson. But
Love Rich.
I love Rich. Erin sits really right now, your role is what I understand it. You sit at the intersection of strategy and technology and real world operations. So you're helping organize and translate business goals into actually solutions that work, ensuring that technology supports teams, scales for growth, and delivers outcomes, which is what we're all looking for right now. And then beyond all that, Erin's doing something fantastic and leading an important conversation. If you're not following Erin on LinkedIn, please do. But you have a series called The Human Side of Leadership. And you're basically exploring traits like kindness, listening, clarity, and courage in a world increasingly focused on automation and efficiency, which is a lot of my world right now. So again, Erin, I had to shorten that because there's so much to tell, but welcome to your Digital Bullpen. I'm happy to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited about like diving in and talking
Yeah.
through all things like leadership. And I think it's something that the human side of leadership in this really strong AI world where we were a little bit forgetting about. And
Yeah.
so I wanted to bring it back. So I'm
I love
excited
it.
to chat more here.
Well, I'm going to ask you two questions first. So the first one is, who tricked you to get into staffing? Who bamboozled you? Like, we all fall into it. How did you get into this industry?
You know what? It's interesting. Nobody really, unless you grew up and your parents were in the staffing industry, I
Right.
think of like Will Scavera. He's someone, his parents were in staffing. I think of like Jack Copeland, who was also, his parents were in staffing. But if you were not on that side, you had no idea what the hell staffing even meant or where it
Right.
was.
Right.
Most people don't even know it exists. So
Totally.
yeah, I started in the skydiving world.
That's right.
So definitely not in the staffing event whatsoever. And then I moved from Florida to Richmond, Virginia and started working at Paychex in the payroll world and working with CPAs. And then I got connected with actually Bond Software, which no longer is in existence anymore, but Bond Software, which was an ATS CRM for the industry at that point in time through mutual connections. And that was really my first opening into staffing. Funny story. So I quit my job because I had an offer with Bond. I was supposed to start on a Monday and it was Friday afternoon. And they're like, Erin, I'm so sorry. We just went through this massive hiring freeze. So I was supposed to go to work for Bond. I got called 2 days before, did not obviously go, got told this.
Yes.
But then 6 months later, I joined them. So that was after hearing what they do for the people, how they were super innovative. They were driving what was on the forefront of technology, but also bringing that leadership quality. That was really my kind of key into staffing, and had some amazing leaders there, such as like Rick Lloyd, Chris Kennedy, just some great folks that I still have great relationships with.
It's awesome. Well, I'm very happy that we tricked you into the industry, because your career since then has been super impactful, including for me. I mean, Erin is a confidant and ally, somebody that I reach out to multiple times for advice, networking, point me in the right direction. Here's a problem. And so been super, super helpful in just my career in general. And so I appreciate that partnership as we continue talking today. So before we dive into why you launched the human side of leadership, if you were going to take a step back, and if I'm listening to the podcast, and I didn't prep you for this question, but what if there was something you wanted somebody to take away from this conversation, what would be maybe through 2 to 3 cliff notes that you're like, I just hope this is what people get out of this series or this conversation today?
Yeah. So if I think about the conversation, and for us right now, I think that listening to the whole thing is key. I think one trait that we think about in leadership, in life, across the board, is we don't always listen. We have so many different things that are going on, from your phone that's sitting in front of you, to text messages coming in, to you're getting pinged on Slack or Teams. So for anyone that's out there, if you are listening right now, I would say I encourage you to listen to the whole thing. And then if you have questions, because you're like, hey, I have no idea what this meant or where you're going, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Paul. So I would say for anyone listening, I would encourage you to listen, and don't be afraid to challenge us or ask us, because any questions. So I think the number one theme that I have across even the human side of leadership is about being curious, asking questions, being more courageous in that. And we'll get into some of those as well.
I love it. Okay, so let's talk about it. So you are, we were supposed to start this when you were halfway through, but now it looks like you're nearing the end. So I think you're at trait 23 of 29. And
we are,
which is crazy. Started back in April, if you guys want to dial it back and see. But I guess if I was going to say, you launched into this obviously with an intent, and probably you had an idea of what was going to happen, and it never goes the way you probably will. So if you're going to tell me what surprised you most about this for yourself, and maybe some of the interactions you've had.
You know what? So I didn't know how much everything was going to hit, with people. And there are certain posts that I put, and I called out, Paul, I'm pretty sure I called you out a few times and was like, Paul, what's your thoughts on this? Give me your feedback. Where are you at? But even in the post, I was kind of testing the audience. Even in the post where I did not make any reference to anyone, it was just simply putting out a trait. I had a massive consistency of responses. People, it really translated. And it made me realize that this topic and leadership and the qualities that we have to bring into it is something that I think that people are more craving in these times. I think about Paul, you opened up and you're like, hey, I'm looking at AI, automation, efficiency, all these different things. We are moving in business, in life, so fast. It's technology ever. Yeah. And I think underneath that, there's also that part where people still want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to be supported. In all honesty, AI didn't create itself. We didn't have a robot creating AI. It's people that have created what we are using and created the technology. So at the end of it, people are still there. And I think that we need to really just make sure that we recognize it.
I think that's huge, big time, because I know that in automation, it's a scary word, because As I say, it is one of those things that AI won't replace you, but people that don't leverage AI will most likely be replaced by those that do. And that's a scary thing to be in because where to start. But I think outside of that, there is something to be said. And I think when you talk about your leadership traits you're going into, AI is not a human. It really doesn't, it will never
No.
like really understand your emotions and where you're at. And so that's the benefit of what, it can have an algorithm, but there's just so much to it. Now, when you talk about your leadership traits, because again, these are things that I don't think AI can duplicate, or at least it can't duplicate and somebody will trust that they know what's happening because I think there's a trust factor. But what when with the leadership talk is like which has generated the strongest reactions of your traits and topics that you've talked about?
Yeah, so there's actually a few, and I love that you asked that because I think there's definitely some that have surprised me more than others.
Hmm.
So some of the biggest ones that hit was around self-awareness. And I think that
Mm,
self-awareness is a huge leadership trait that we all need to really kind of take a look at. And it's about understanding ourself,
mm,
about what's our triggers, our communication style. It's about understanding our own leadership qualities, where we can grow, where we can learn. So that was
yeah,
one that drove a lot of different reaction and comments. And I loved it because it triggered different things across the board. The other one,
yeah.
there was two others that were probably pretty close in there. One was recognition and one was courage. And it's funny because with recognition, we all want to be recognized, even if we
Mm,
don't always say it. I was having a conversation the other day with my mom, and she was going to be doing a speech, and she read it to me in advance. And my mom is like way more introverted than I am. I'm like the true extrovert. And she was like,
okay.
"Hey, Erin, can I read this?" And all she wanted to hear was, this sounded good. Yes, you should do this.
Mm,
And it's like we have recognition that we require and we kind of like we want and we seek, I think, at any single age. And I think in leadership, we often forget about recognition. We
mm,
think that, oh, they
mm.
already know, right?
Yeah,
Like they already know they're good. We already
yeah,
know they're at the top. And like, I mean, you get recognition when you see performance numbers, but you think about the operational side, the other piece of it. We all
yeah.
want to be told that we're doing good. So that was that was a quality of leadership, of being recognized and making sure that
Mm,
we make sure that others are feeling recognized. And
yeah.
then the other one, which I think you'll relate to this too, and I think you even commented on it, is courage.
Mm,
The
yes.
leadership quality of being courageous. I think one of the things that really kind of came out on that one was about being able to take those first steps, not being afraid to ask the hard question in the room. In a leadership standpoint, being courageous also means being able to say, I do not know. And that's okay.
Oh my
Like, you
God,
got it. Like,
yes.
we're not perfect. We don't know all the
Yeah,
answers, but I'll find out.
yes.
But I don't know. So,
Yeah,
courage was one that totally hit home. And I think it's because it just connected with the human side, right?
yeah,
Like, that was probably
yeah,
the biggest piece is we need to step up. We need to say things. We need to be not be afraid to make those next moves. And so
yeah.
that was those were some of the biggest ones that had the strongest reactions that we had across the board.
And again, I want to point out that there are so far 23 different traits that Erin has been putting out on LinkedIn, I believe weekly, right? Over the past so
Yeah,
many
every
weeks.
Tuesday, Thursday. So it's been
Yeah,
kind of
okay.
fun.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is that as leaders, I don't think we can. There's 29 traits, and if you were going to say I need to embody all these, that's too much, right? I think I think
Yeah.
it's understanding where you're either a deficiencies, and I hate to say deficiency, but it's just an opportunity for growth, right? And that's something to kind of
Yep.
lean into as you read through these. And it's funny because I hear about the ones you talked about: self-awareness, recognition, and then courage. Like I love those three. And I want to dive into those a little bit if those have kind of like produced a little bit of the most background. But like I even think about self awareness. So you talked about triggers. And when you say
Yeah.
triggers, it's almost like when you're in a relationship and your partner's triggering you and you need to know, like, I'm not going to show up well in this conversation, right? I need to take a step back and breathe before I step in. And in business, I think when I think about triggers in business, like, tell me about that. Like when you talk about self-awareness and those triggers and showing up, right? How you show up, I think is a huge one.
Yeah.
Tell me about some of that
So
conversation.
I'm going to back up before I dive into this a little bit. So the whole
Yeah.
thing on the human side of leadership was
Yeah.
leadership both of how we take it on the field and off the field, right? So, and on the field, I think about both I have related back to my sports world, but I also relate it to how do I show up and be a leader for others in my life? Because we can be a leader, not just within our organization, within business, but we can be a leaders to others that are here, your family, your friends kids. You can be a leader within those. So when I think about triggers, it is about being self-aware of the triggers in each environment that you're in. So personally, triggers can be a little bit more harder to recognize, I think, than when you're.
So much. Oh, you remember them afterwards. You're like, oh, damn, that triggered me.
I'm like,
but in the moment,
yes.
you react. Yes.
Should not have reacted to that. I think sometimes when we're in like a boardroom or a Teams meeting, because everything is Teams or Zoom or whatever it might be, then we're a little bit more cognizant of our triggers. So when I think about triggers, the big piece that I think about with that self-awareness is tying it into being empathetic and being aware of how the other person feels. So even though I'm going to tie this back also a little bit. So even though we have 29 traits, these traits are all related to one another. So you don't need to have every trait, but those traits are relatable to each. So like self-awareness, you have to be empathetic. And I think about that of putting yourself in the seat of someone else. Like, Paul, you're in technology, right? So you're looking at how can I drive efficiencies, operational efficiencies? How can we be smart about this? How can I make sure that we have adoption? It's just not putting a tool in place. It's about being empathetic of everyone else's role and what's going on within their lives. And so that's really where, if I tie this back to triggers, we need to be aware of what are other people's triggers as well as our own.
How am I triggering other people? And I'm in the world of in getting recruiters to adopt AI and not be worried that this is going to replace them, because that is a trigger, right? Especially when you're with a global organization and different geographies are going to react differently. And so knowing not just what the trigger, but being able to see those, understand them, be empathetic to them, huge. It's huge. And I love that that's just something to be aware of, right? That self-awareness aspect that you chatted about. And that's huge. And I think that there's so much into that. And we talk about like what we're losing in the human side of leadership. And when we think about triggers, if I'm at home working remotely, I can be triggered by somebody's IM. By the way, please don't get triggered by emails and IMs, because it never is how
or
somebody
text
meant
messages.
It. Right. Have you ever read a text message and I realize I'm like, oh, well, you did that. I'm like, I don't know if that's how they're saying it, but in my mind, I'm reading it either sarcastic or whatever. What's interesting is when we think about what we're losing in the human side and those triggers, I can be triggered and take a moment and then center myself and respond. But to your point, when we're in person, and that is something that more people are going back to, and we're thriving for that in-person engagement, or in a Zoom meeting like this, I have to be aware of my triggers or my responses real time. And I have to be, I can't go to ChatGPT and plug in what I want to say and say, can you make this
like typing on the side?
Make me not sound like an asshole, right? Like, because I probably said that. It's like, you might want to tone that down a bit, right? That self-awareness is huge, especially in those human leadership. And I think we've lost a little of that.
I think so too. And I mean, this whole entire post all came out and series really came out because it was a conversation I was having with a few different people, some inside my organization and some outside. And it wasn't like I was searching for this, but they were having conversations about how they didn't feel that they can go to their leadership. Their leaderships were very tunnel vision on, oh my God, we need to have AI. We need to do this. We need to look at how can we control it. And they started to lose sight of what are the humans doing? Where are they at? And then the other piece of it was around, I had someone that was like, Erin, I feel like I can really come to you. And you truly, when people say an open door, they're like, I feel like you do have an open door. I can trust what I say with you. You help me in these coaching elements. And she goes, I don't always get that. And I was like, can you chat with me more? And they're like, well, a lot of leaders will say they have an open door, but the lights are off. And so, which is a great analogy, right? Like the lights are off. So you come in and they feel like it's this black hole, or they go in and they're like, God, I don't want to walk into this darkness. I'm getting criticized. They're telling me what I'm doing wrong. They don't, like, the leaders are forgetting the part of how do we build other people and build them up so they can also be leaders. So how do we bring in coaching? How do we bring in the mentorship? How do we help them think about things differently? Like, there's a lot of different, I mean, millennials are now turning into their 40s, right? We have boomers that are retiring. We have these Gen Zs that are coming in. Everyone has these different skill sets, but people may want to go into leadership, and we need to be able to figure out how do we manage and help all of them. And everyone has different skills that we can help build upon. And I think that's something that we were missing. And that's really how this all came, is how do we create an open door? How do we create trust? How do we make sure that somebody feels comfortable with being vulnerable so then they can be courageous to take some of those next steps?
I love that. And I'm gonna pivot off that and talk about recognition, because recognition is, I think that goes hand in hand with building somebody up, right? Because there's that recognition aspect that because we are so good at telling people what they've done wrong. We're good at looking for the negative, but then that positive aspect, that positive trait, recognizing it and building it, it's huge. And I think that we forget to do that. I forget to do that because I'm so busy, right? And I have to accomplish my goal. So you said recognition really hit a point, and a lot of people talked about that. I'm going to just stop there. Tell me about that trait. And because that kind of goes with, I mean, being courageous and recognition. I mean, again, how they tie together, we can set those, we can tie them together left and right.
Yeah, no. So if I jump into recognition for a little bit, recognition is about recognizing the ones that also don't always recognize themselves. It's also about being able to be a voice for people that aren't going to be a voice for them. It's about providing recognition when folks aren't in the room. I have an individual right now at Medical Solutions Group. He is a freaking rock star in what he's building from an AI perspective. And he's created this phenomenal dashboard. And so it's about saying their name, bringing them up in rooms and conversations and to leadership and to other leaders to say, this is a super strong leader. I'm going to recognize them. I want to give them the floor. They're being innovative. They're thinking about things. They're thinking outside the box. And so that's really where recognition is. And we don't always recognize everyone because we don't always like think that they need it. Like recognition, we kind of like, I don't know, my thoughts around this is we think that they already know that they're good. And so instead of like lifting them and telling them, and you know, I think that's big. And then I think that goes hand in hand with courage. But with courage, I think it's also about being able to face your fears. So I think courage and fear comes into play. There was a documentary. It was like a mini documentary. It was called Say Yes. Have you seen this yet?
I haven't.
The Say Yes theory.
Wait. I think I heard about it. Yeah.
Okay. So it was super, super cool. And I was watching this Say Yes. It was about a guy that was he was going skydiving for the first time. I think it was like over in Europe, but he started talking about like, hey, how do you feel like you're facing a fear? And he goes, well, fear is just an acronym. And I was like, oh, like this is getting interesting. Where are we going with this? And he goes, fear stands for face everything and rise. And I was like, okay. I still get chills, like thinking about this. I was like, holy shit, what a great statement, right? Face everything and rise. So fear goes with courage. It goes with bravery. It goes with your self-awareness. It's about stepping outside of the box. It's about being innovative. And as leaders, we have to face fears. Leadership isn't about removing fears. It's about helping people move through it. It's about us taking those steps. It requires our courage. There was Michelle Poehler. She is a public speaker. She spoke at staffing or at ASA Thrive Live last year. And she wrote a book on fears. And it's amazing. It's all about face your fears. And she was doing a study. It was like her MBA, and she was facing 100 fears in 100 days. And her last fear that she had was public speaking. And so she said, I want to do a TED Talk. And so never
Okay.
done any public speaking at all. So on her 100th day and her 100 fear was this TED talk and it was all about her entire like experience of facing her fears. Well, now it's led her into being a public speaker and a keynote at companies across the entire world. And
Wow.
it's amazing when you take that fear or you face something that is of the uncertainty and you rise to it, you have no idea what doors it's going to open. And I think in leadership, that's something that we do as leaders, but we also need to build in others. We need to get them to take those first steps.
I love it. And so I'm writing stuff down here because as I think through just not about my life, my experience, but I think about, courage. And I wrote down the word imposter syndrome because when I think about recognition, because we've all had, if you're not having imposter syndrome, you're probably insane or you're too cocky or confident, right? Like
Agreed.
if
Agreed.
I
We've all
wonder,
been there.
we all have it and you're going to have it. And the crazy thing about recognition is recognition helps solve for that in your groups and teams because
Yes.
sometimes there's been times in my role here and working at my new role with AirSwift, like where I'm just rocking it out and I think I'm doing a great job. And then I'm like, you're going to crash and burn, Paul. Oh my God. Like nobody likes what you're doing. I mean, it's because it's change, it's new stuff. It's getting, and then it just takes like my boss or somebody next to me be like, I am so impressed of you. And I'm like, it just
You
gives
got
me
to
that
recognize it's
confidence.
simple words.
It's
Yes.
just a simple word. I don't even need money, a paycheck, anything. Like, honestly, sometimes you can give somebody, they say you can give somebody $200, they're going to go spend it on bills, but you can
Yep.
recognize somebody in a group and it's just going to build them up. Right. And so
Yep.
there's that recognition helping for that imposter syndrome. And I think about people being fearful too. And I wrote down John Marshall was a CEO that I worked for back at Adecco or the specialty group for a long time. He was a fantastic leader. And I remember asking, I was like, are you ever scared? He's like, oh my God, I'm scared shitless all the time. I walk into a
Yeah.
room and I'm scared. Like, it's just like, and I'm just like, really? And he's like, yeah, but it's just, I recognize it and I go forward with it. And it, face everything and rise, right? Like
Yep.
it's that what you just said. And it's just, I see that in the leaders. And I think just acknowledging that in who we are does so much for us as leaders and being able to bring up those people in our lives too. So it's funny. I'm writing it down. I'm like, yes, yes, yes.
And I love that. I mean, because he was honest, which I think is a leadership trait
Oh
about,
God,
hey,
yes.
I walk into every room and I'm fearful. Every
Yeah.
time I get on stage, like, oh my God, butterflies, like it is there. But it's also, it sounds like he was super transparent with you
Yeah.
about where he was.
Mhm.
Also, another big thing, he was vulnerable
Yeah.
in the sense of like,
Yes.
I get
You
scared
embody
shitless
all,
every
yeah,
time I
yeah.
stand in. So it's all these different traits that kind of mold together that help us grow and build other leaders. If he
Mhm.
said, oh yeah, I walk in, I'm good, but he's totally like lying to you,
Yeah.
that doesn't give you that trust. And I think
Well,
that's something when we look at is when someone can be honest with us for
and I
leaders.
think and as a leader, if you go into a room and you're like, you need that confidence is not knowing everything. To your point, courage is being able to
Exactly.
say, I'm not sure. Let's figure it out. Or let me
Yes.
go find out. Right. So, but I think about when you go into a room and if he would turn around and said, no, I got it every time. I am so super solid. You know what you've done now is you've not only lied because I guarantee there's fear behind there somewhere, but you've now
Yes.
set a false expectation for that person to live up to.
Exactly.
And now they think they have to be fearless when going in. And now you've set them up for failure as a leader because it's like the expectation is that they should never be afraid. And so not only have you lied
100%.
and you haven't showed up, but now you've set false expectations that are never going to be achievable for your people. Or if they are, they're also going to lie. And now you're just perpetuating the lie forward, right? And
Yep.
it's just, so there's just, again, it's how those traits fit together. But also I think on the other side, and what we don't talk about is when you don't embody those traits or you ignore one, what is the trickle down effect to your people? And what is the trickle down effect to your team and performance?
So
It's
yeah, I mean, that's a super great question because I think that when we do not come forward as being trustworthy, vulnerable, we're not clear in our messaging, which clear is a key thing that I think that as
mm,
leaders we need to instill in others. There's I don't you know Rob. I'm pretty sure you know
yeah,
Rob.
yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God, Rob, what is your last name? I'm drawing a blank on this right
Yeah, we
now.
just saw
Amy
Bullhorn
Yakowski's
engaged.
husband.
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Oh,
not
yeah,
Rob,
no, Rob,
man,
sorry.
but
Yeah, yeah.
Rob, Amy Yakowski's husband.
Yeah, absolutely.
Drawing a
Yeah.
blank on Rob's last name,
That's
but
okay.
I will get
Yeah.
it for you here. But Rob actually put out an entire leadership session that I did, and it was a series that I attended with other people that were outside of our industry. And it's around getting clear. It's about being clear. It's about creating that clarity and trust and confidence in others so you can be able to bring that down. Because if you are not clear, if people don't trust you, if you don't have transparency, if you don't have others believing in your confidence, you're going to lose good people. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter necessarily about what the numbers are. The numbers can be there, like the numbers are going to show. But if you don't instill a confidence in yourself and in others, they're going to leave. Rob Hunter, that's who I was getting.
Okay. Yeah.
I was like, I'm like, why am I drawing a blank on this?
Yeah.
And if we create an area where we are unclear, people then start creating assumptions. Assumptions are dangerous. I mean, confusion is ridiculously expensive for any one company. And so if we don't build this into our culture of being clear, being transparent, being honest, having self-awareness, being empathetic, then our top performers are also going to leave because they don't want to be in that culture.
Yeah.
They want to be not just recognized for their numbers, they want to be recognized for who they are as people as well.
And it's funny, as we talk about the negative impacts of not embodying the human side of leadership, you just said being clear. And in my mind, I'm like, oh shit, am I being clear enough? Like you start to question, and that's okay. I mean, but by the way, that's the question you should ask yourself, because in me, it's self-reflection, self-understanding, and that's where I go to. But like, I think about clarity, and there's so many times when I meet with somebody and I ask them after a meeting, I'm like, can you do me a favor? And can you write me an email about what you understood? It's just, as opposed to me, it's just making sure I'm clear and giving me an opportunity to say to know what I said, to see what they heard, and then correct what I need to, right? And it is that, and how you get clarity in the room is to just be, and by the way, if they didn't hear it, it's not their fault. It's probably your fault because you didn't say it right. So make sure you recognize that you don't say, that's not what I said. Being clear, and then also then how you communicate that back to your employees is huge. And there's so much down that line.
The other piece with that from like in leadership is not closing out a meeting of, okay, did everybody understand? It's about saying, hey, Paul, can you repeat back to me what you think you heard?
Yeah.
Because now it's holding your team accountable, but it's also holding yourself accountable for making sure, was I clear in my messaging? Does my team understand what I'm asking for? And that's going to create a much stronger like relationship with everyone, because now everyone's on the same page. And then if you say something that wasn't super clear, like, oh, we missed the mark here, other people are going to chime in and be like, oh, wait, I have a question about that. So then you're creating courage, you're creating bravery, you're creating more intentional communication and questions. So questions, I think, are one of the strongest things that we can ask. The more questions that we really make sure are relatable, the stronger it's going to be as a leadership quality across the board.
I was just watching a masterclass, and it was about dealing with conflict at work. I forget who it was, but it's a good one if you watch it, because she talks about the different types of conflict people, the different type of people in work.
Ooh.
And it's really good. It's a masterclass, and I'll post it in this afterwards. But one of the things she talked about was looping, and we do it in relationships. It's almost like it's asking, what did you hear? And then repeating it back to somebody, right? She also talks about listening, in the moment, but it was how you avoid conflict at work. And what's crazy is avoiding conflict at work is somewhat embodying a lot of these traits and ensuring that you're using them. But one of them was looping. It was like, so what I'm hearing you say, Erin, is that I should be repeating back to people or asking more questions what I'm hearing before I leave a meeting, right? It's like, and it sounds super childish, or like it's almost like, but what it also does is it makes sure you understand, but it lets that person know that you were listening. And there's two things that happen when you repeat things back, right? Or when you ask those questions. And that clarity, understanding, that looping aspect it's just, there's so much that happens, and it just takes practice. It takes recognition, and it's that self-reflection and knowing what you haven't done as a leader, right?
It's interesting because I think that listening is one of the biggest traits that we struggle with. And I think it's also because like speed has become currency in some senses, right? Like we were like, oh, give me the problem I want to solve. But really, and listening forces us to slow down. That slow down can also be uncomfortable. So there's someone that is like amazing at asking this question of, here is what I heard you say. Yvonne Gilbert, love her to death. Like one of my good friends. We used to work together at Newbury Partners. And she has it down to a staple of repeating back what she heard. And she's so good at it. And it doesn't feel childish. It's like, I was like, oh my God, you're amazing at doing this. And I learned from her because when she repeats back, it creates that clarity. It creates a transparency. She asks questions to make sure she understands as well.
Yes.
And it's amazing. It's funny. You know, I was a kid. I was that kid in the class. I was like, oh, I'm just going to say out the answer. I hated raising my hand, right?
Same.
I'm terrible.
Yeah.
But now learning as a leader, I ask and write down questions that I want to ask in any situation so I can get more clear. And I've been really good and intentional about waiting until the conversation is done. And I sometimes use the little raise my hand icon now. I was like, man, this is the first time I've ever raised my hand in those Zooms or team meetings so I can get those. And it's about that clarity and getting more understanding and let people finish so I can ask those questions. I might not be good in my personal life. I need to work on that. So listening is key, but in business, it's much better.
You know how many times I'll get off a call and I will have a disagreement with my husband, and he will say, you know, I wish you would talk to me like the way you talk to people at work.
Tracy says that all the time to me. So yes, I 100% relate on that. It's like,
it is. Why do we keep? I don't know. We lose everything. But that being said, like, it's called the conflict playbook. That's the masterclass, by the way, the conflict playbook. Anyways, if you want to do it,
I'll have to check that out.
By the way, I could talk to you about this all day, and we are.
I know.
You know, but I want to ask a couple questions before we kind of wrap up, because we talked about AI a little bit. We haven't really talked about technology. We could do another one on technology. This is about leadership. But when it comes to AI and leadership and what we're losing, I think that as a leader, we've leveraged AI to not only help do our jobs, but also in some cases to help manage our people. And I kind of want to ask you, like, when it comes to AI technology and leadership together, like, not how has it changed the conversation or how you talk to folks, but also like maybe like what are we not spending enough time asking ourselves as leaders?
I think that's a really great question because AI is here to stay, right? Like it's not going anywhere. Yeah. I think that AI has made efficiency, which you talked a little bit about, being one of the loudest conversations in the room right now. So, which makes sense. Yeah. But I think that right now with AI and leadership, the risk is when leaders stop at just working with AI from an efficiency standpoint. I think conversations are all around, like you think about being in an executive leadership meeting or a senior leadership, whatever it might be, management. We're all looking at how do we save time? How do we cut costs? How do we improve output? But you touched on it a little bit, but I don't think that we are doing enough around how do we work with AI to how do I help develop better people within my team? How do I help develop better people within the organization? Yeah. How do I get someone else to understand the point of view of operations versus technology versus recruiting versus sales versus finance, because they all work together. Yeah. How do I here's a situation, how do I coach better? Not solve. How do I give them coaching tools to be stronger individuals so they can be better leaders? Because ultimately, we're all going to like retire at some point. So we have to build our generation, right? Yeah. I mean, it would be amazing if we had the money right now and retire tomorrow. But
Yes.
how do we build strong people below us? So that's
Yeah.
huge. So I think that like where we're missing is we've been so focused on how we can use AI to optimize, to streamline, to
Mhm.
analyze, to do all these things that we're not thinking about. And some people are. So I'm not going to say this is for everyone,
No,
but I
absolutely.
feel like we're missing a gap a little bit of being able to optimize leadership. Like AI should help optimize leadership, not just those
Yes.
operational sides. And I think
Yes.
that we can look at that. And I think some L&D teams, like the leadership and development teams, are doing some really good jobs, but I think that there's still some pieces that we are missing.
Yeah.
I mean, you've probably seen it like from a sales perspective. I've even helped like, okay, let's take a discovery call. Let's get the transcript. What are some strategic questions that we could
Yeah.
have asked? Or where are some
Yes.
opportunities for us to go forward? Or
Mhm.
I even built an agent where we utilize AI as a coaching tool, which is ultimately a leadership tool. So how do we create stronger communication with our prospects? How do we
Yeah.
create transparency without giving them too much with our prospects? So it's
Yes.
all taking these traits, but building them into our general conversations and using AI to help us in those coaching tools.
I love that and it's as you talk through this, I think about Betsy Tong. She's somebody that I talked to you
Love
about.
Betsy.
So I mean, we are talking about optimization, and sometimes when people see optimize efficiency, it comes to how do we eliminate headcount? That's
Yep.
fine. There's some headcount that may be eliminated, but in some cases, there's certain organizations. And when I was just at Bullhorn Engage, I think it was McKenzie who does this global research was talking about the fact that a lot of companies laid off a lot of their lower level folks. So like we just get rid of the bottom, but what you're preventing is who's going to replace you. You need to
Yes.
retire. You need to coach people internally. If every company
Yeah.
lays off their entry level folks, we're not going to be able to grow and coach people through the process. And some companies have flipped and they're like, we need to hire these people back and get them back into play. And I know that Betsy talks a lot about like when you're eliminating, what are you eliminating and why? And where is your succession planning and who is going to take your role? Who's coaching those people up? And I think you hit a lot of those points. And we just have to remember that we can't cut your nose off to spite your face, right? You gotta remember like what the end goal is, and it's not eliminating its efficiencies and growing still internally. And I love that
But
you said we're losing that part.
that's that human in the loop part as well. So like I
Mm,
think that when we automate too much and we remove too many of those entry level roles, then or like we flatten our organization way too aggressively, then we create these short-term savings, but we're not creating
yeah.
the long-term gaps. So
Yep.
when I think about this, I think about, okay, where's your bench? Who are you bringing up?
Mm-hmm.
Who are
Yep.
you developing for these other roles?
Yes.
Who are your future leaders that are within your
Yes.
organization? And I also think that when you have these early entry roles, this is where people learn. This is where they learn judgment. They learn how to
Yes.
fail forward. They learn how to
Yeah.
communicate. They get the resilience. I mean, I could keep on going. They get your business acumen within the industry that you are.
Yeah.
Holy shit, coming into healthcare, there's so much that I've learned. And this is where I think AI, when we're thinking about this, AI can support growth, but it can't replace the experience of learning it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you have to have this massive balance. AI should be your supporting tool. It should not be the one that is your end result. At the end of the day, AI will help you across the board, but your name is on it. If I'm putting something out, like I read anything that I put into AI and I modify and I change
Mm-hmm.
because it's my name. It's not Claude. It's
Right.
not Chat
And that
GPT or
right. And
whoever else. Like, yeah,
that's what I think Amy
we own
Akowski was
it.
talking about. We push out so much and it's becoming so generic that with the human, it's all sounding the same. But you know what? You
Yes.
said something that I want to repeat. It's like AI, I think, did I say that AI will help you grow, but it won't help you experience growing, right? Or
Yeah.
growth. And so as a
Yeah.
human, like you said, it can help you grow, but it won't help you experience growth. And that's
Yeah,
huge.
it will not replace the experience of
Of
learning
growing,
how to
learning.
grow,
Yes.
right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So it,
I
it
love it.
can support you growing within your environment when you're
Mhm.
starting out, wherever you are, but it's not going to replace that experience. You have to
Yeah.
experience everything across the board. I mean, I'm a super strong believer that AI is definitely a huge supporter and it can help
Hmm.
us accelerate work, But as humans, we own that outcome. And as
Yeah.
leaders, we own the responsibility of teaching our teams how to use AI, but how to also use your own human judgment. So I think that's huge in leadership, especially
Yeah.
right now, is we need to still teach, like, yes, drive the efficiencies, use technology, like we need to show your adoption, but I also need you to think about this on your own.
Yeah.
Um, there was a conversation I was having the other day with someone about doing interviews.
Hmm.
And instead of like, hey, I have a homework, I want you to do this, where people would just use AI to take it,
Yeah.
they had an interview where it was in person. So they would be like, okay, Paul, here's the situation.
Yeah.
You're in a conversation with XYZ client. Here's what's happening. How would you handle it? And it's
Hmm.
right now. So it's like those
Yeah.
situational based. How are they responding? They're not typing into AI to give the
Yes.
response, but it's about that human element as well.
Well, I tell you what, we could talk all day about it, but I have 4 questions I want to ask you before we close out. That adapting kind of what we're doing, but I want to talk about leadership. So, the first question is, what is one leadership belief you've changed your mind about?
Ooh, okay. So speed round kind of here. You do
Yeah.
not have to be perfect. I used to
Mm.
think we needed all the answers.
Yeah.
Now I believe we just need to ask better questions. So
Yeah.
really be authentic. You don't have to be perfect. Just do a really damn good job of asking questions so you can get more clear and stronger clarity.
I love it. Um, what's one trait that you wish every leader practiced more often?
I will. We've already touched on this is
Yeah.
listening, like without question. So
Yeah, I'm sorry, what? Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
listening.
Yes.
Number one, just put tape over your mouth, like in the like. Put your hands underneath your butt while you're sitting there. But people want to feel heard, so listen more, ask more questions. Listening is the number one trait I think we need to practice more.
Agreed. Third one, what do you hope people not think, but feel after they work with you?
Oh, that's a great question. I want them to feel supported.
Hmm.
I like supported, but I also like that they feel, I want them to feel seen. I want them to feel heard. And I want them to also feel a little bit challenged in some of the questions that I might be asking them. Because I think that when I'm working with folks, if they feel seen and heard, I feel that I'm better because of it. And it's going to help them grow.
I love it. And the last question, I think we've resonated. I don't know. I'm gonna ask it, but if people remember one thing from today's conversation, what should it be?
So I'm going to hone in. That's great. I'm going to hone on the tech side a little bit and the AI side because I think that's also, I know we chatted about this at the very beginning, but I
Yeah.
also want people to realize like our leadership traits are always here, right? So
Hmm.
tech and like we need to embed them in everything that we do. So if
Yeah.
people are remembering something else that I didn't already say at the very beginning from this conversation, I'll say that like technology and AI is always going to kind of be here to help like to change how we work. It's there. It's not going away.
Yes.
Technology is always here.
Yeah.
But I think a key thing in leadership is how we lead people through that
Mm.
change is always going to
Yeah.
matter the most. So think about all of the different traits we chatted about, follow the post. You'll get even more, but how we lead people through is
Hmm.
change is constant. So that's going to be matter more than anything. So I'd love people to kind of get that out of here.
Yeah, I just thought like people are always wondering like AI changes. I'm constantly having to learn like, and that is never going to change with technology.
It's
But
not.
what's interesting is these leadership traits. Well, if you want to learn something that's going to be tried, true, and continue, the leadership traits are something that you can embody, learn because those are kind of something you can always continue to grow. But the foundations are never going to change, and that's huge. So I love it.
100%.
Well, everyone, Erin, if you haven't followed Erin MacKenzie on LinkedIn, we will post your LinkedIn and your leadership, your human side of leadership. What fun it's been catching up with you. And I take away every conversation, whether it's a partner I need to call or something that I've fucked up in my own leadership life, right? Like I take away something from every conversation with you, and I appreciate everything that you do for not only me, but the staffing community as a whole. So thank you so much for coming on your Digital Bullpen today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And I think that goes vice versa. I'm always learning from everything you always say, all your advice, and I can't wait for all of the other guests that you have so I can even learn even more. So thank you for putting this together and going out solo. I'm so honored to be here as your first guest.
Well, thank you. I wouldn't have had it any other way. Well, have a wonderful day. Thanks again for coming on, and I will see you soon. Thanks guys.
So much, Paul.